Hey there, welcome to episode number 34 of Killer POV. I'm one of your co-hosts, Rob G. from Icons, Fright, and FEARnet. Joining me as always is Rebekah McKendry from Fangoria.
You introduced me first this week.
I did, because I also have Elric Kane here from Killer POV.
La 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 la.
Witch!
Oh my God.
That's a clue. That's a clue what is going on today.
I'm super excited. We have a really, really great topic that I've wanted to tackle since we started the show, and I
keep stopping him.
And people
keep
kept
stopping
recommending it. Like, it was the one whenever we would put up on Facebook, like, which topic should we do? Everybody would be like, you got to do this one.
I knew one of our guests was going to be in town, and we have another guest who's a composer, so we'll have it all kind of like a nice full horror soundtrack discussion.
It's a melange of soundtracking.
As you will hear.
But not sound design as much.
No.
And we will draw the distinction.
We could tell,
they sometimes become musical, like Eraserhead becomes musical, but it really is a sound design movie more than a soundtrack movie, and yet it becomes the same thing.
And the composer we have going on, I think, is on that very thin line.
It's very organic.
Yeah, totally. So we'll get to that, but we've seen
very cool. A lot of fun.
So much stuff that we just wanted to get right into.
My mind is so melted right now.
I know, it's October. It's our busiest month. First up, me and Elric and Scott Reynolds, our friend who's on our show previously, went together to United States of Horror to see Abby, the Black Exorcist ripoff movie.
From Kentucky.
Which I'm really intrigued how you guys thought about it, because I watched it a couple of years ago on VHS, and it was just me by myself cleaning the room, popped in a tape, and it was the most boring thing I've ever seen.
It was very enjoyable. You could only see it being delirious at 12 o'clock at night after a beer or two with an audience and sitting with friends. We enjoyed it a lot. And I mean, it was a 16 millimeter print, looked pretty darn good, probably better than that DVD that's out there.
Oh yeah, I'm sure.
And I don't know, I kind of like that they had to break in the middle because they had to change the reel and all.
Because it was 16,
We're like, man, what are we watching?
It really felt like, to me, it felt like the ultimate exploitation film. Of all exploitation, it felt like, and I don't mean like in terms of entertainment value, but in terms of the concept of what exploitation is there for, which is literally, hey, Exorcist is successful. We have a subgroup who we could make the exact same film more or less, even though there were a lot of differences. Yeah. And within this cultural, racial group, we're going to make that version of the film and then exploit that for a market.
So it's like an ideal, refined version of the exploitation film.
Of what you could do.
Like a poster child.
But what was so impressive, I mean, for one, this guy, and we've talked about him a lot now, William Girdler, is just, I'm completely, basically obsessed now. And I found a page I'll link with all the excerpts of any interview with him ever done, because he died at the ripe age of 30, and he had made, I think, 9 films in a helicopter crash while scouting locations. He's from Kentucky, made most of his films rurally, a couple blaxploitation films amongst them, in terms of blaxploitation and like actual detective, cop, kind of coffee, Pam Grier stuff. Pam Grier wasn't one of them. And then he made, Manitou and Grizzly and something else that I hadn't heard of. But the thing about the film was it didn't feel like... It sounds weird, but for what it was, it didn't feel like racial stereotypes. And I was like really impressed by the treatment of very intelligent, refined Black culture. Even in the opening scene, they're all talking about like things almost like anthropologists in the middle of a park. I mean, there's typical scenes where they're all sitting eating KFC outside a house, which is just incredible.
That's kind of out of control.
in a location like that. But it also has scenes that are the rip-off scenes are ridiculous. Like when it's the guy in Africa somewhere. Where was he in? Where was he in Zaire? It was somewhere in the Congo or something, and he discovers the box that opens up the demon, and he's dressed literally like Max von Sydow from The Exorcist. And those scenes are kind of ridiculous, but the actual performance of the woman who plays Abby and just some of the things in it, I would say it's like Exorcist with way more motherfucker.
Yeah, that's true.
There's a lot more of those in there. But it was a lot of fun.
I don't know if I'm the only one, but I felt like her voice, because obviously they do some kind of effect and a low, like, I felt it was kind of directly very Freddy Krueger. I feel like whoever did the movie,
year was that? No, it was before Freddy.
Early 70s. Yeah. So I don't know. That's
but it is fun. I wouldn't watch it like how Becca saw it, for sure.
I don't think it's a movie you
I would
could
be
watch.
pretty bored in that.
If any of you out there do find it, I would recommend a night with friends, a group of people where you could have fun with it, because
and to conclude the enigma, the reason, which I didn't know until we're there, the reason you can't see this film is because it really was considered an actual knockoff and was not allowed to be seen.
Yeah, Warner Brothers went after them.
Warner Brothers went, but by then it had done it had made its money, made its mark. He had done great on it.
I'm so amused by films like that, like Last Shark, which was made as a direct Jaws ripoff, and it was killed after 1 week when Universal sued it.
Oh, yeah.
But in that 1 week, it made more than its money back. So it was a complete total success.
And that's exactly the word exploitation. I mean, it makes total sense, you know?
Yeah.
But it's an interesting film. I think people who love interesting, quirky movies, completists need to see this film.
Yeah, that's quirky.
There was a couple times. I think I faded like twice.
I was wide awake.
You're doing good.
I took a nap and everything.
Well, that's right.
Ready.
Wow.
But the old guys were on the town.
I'm bad at midnight movies.
Oh yeah, that's tough.
I'm panicking this weekend because we have back-to-back Halloween parties, and I'm like, I can't do it, guys. By 9 o'clock, I'm done. So.
Yeah, it's hard.
I bet people are listening, being like, "Oh, poor baby, you've got back-to-back Halloween parties."
Right.
I know.
This is the time to enjoy it. And then Beck and I saw a movie together as well.
Yes.
We were both at Screamfest for Schism.
I've been at Screamfest for the past week and a half.
Yeah,
I pretty much
been every night,
there.
Right?
Just about. I missed a couple of movies. I saw 308. I saw Seasoning House. I saw Torment. And then I saw Schism, and I've been there for all of the shorts nights.
How was Torment? Just out of curiosity. Okay?
I'm not into torture films very much.
Okay, so it was that.
It is that at times, but it was enough of that I tuned out. But there were people in the audience who absolutely loved it. I liked 308. There were some cultural differences. 308's Indonesian.
Okay.
And I liked it just because it was an Indonesian ghost story about a haunted hotel room. But the hotel was very crisp and marble and glassy and cold. And the cinematography was beautiful. And but it was only 7 characters because the hotel was closed down. So I loved it because it was very self-contained. And Seasoning House, I enjoyed in theory, but it was very heavy and hard to get through. It was about a war going on in Europe, and they gather up all of the female children from the opposing side and put them into a house and turn them into prostitutes. And it was about the one girl she's a deaf mute, and she's kind of not cute enough to become a prostitute. So her job is to clean up the prostitutes the morning after the rapes. When the soldiers come in to rape them. And it was ridiculously brutal.
Feel good movie of the year. I'm already bummed. I think this whole podcast just went down the toilet. You're bummed. Stop it. Schism, please. Schism.
No, because
Schism's pretty intense too.
We'll do a double feature of that, and I Spit on Your Grave too, apparently.
Right. Yeah.
That's a feel good.
So this one, but the weird element was that the girl, she lived in the walls, so she moved from room to room during the day while all the rapes were going on. So it had this weird kind of people under the stairs element to it. So intense, but it was, as strange as this is for me to say, it was really nicely shot. So, it's not one I will ever watch again. But
I didn't go to Schism because I had to do a family thing. But when I saw her, she was raving about it and saying she was really excited about it
on Fango today. It was like one of my favorite indie films of the year.
I love it. It's written and directed by Adam Girash and Jay Sanderson, who did the Night of the Demons remake. They did Autopsy, one of the After Dark films.
And The Last Argento.
They did Mother of Tears. And a few things with Toby Hooper. Toolbox Murders.
Yeah, Toolbox Murders is pretty good.
I think Schism is their best movie that they've done so far.
I highly agree.
Yeah, it's really good. The basic premise is, you kind of go into the life of this guy who's a cook and doesn't remember much about his life. Like his girlfriend comments like, "Oh, you don't have any posters up. Like, what do you like?"
They have boring
sex. He's like, I don't know. He's like, he woke up in a field and he's been living this life for a year, and he starts having
amnesia. So he had a concussion when he woke up in the field. He had a concussion and full amnesia.
Is Ashlyn Yenny his girlfriend or the girl in the past?
She is his girlfriend. The girl in the past is her last name is La Liberate.
Okay, I just know Ashlyn Yenny from Human Centipede 1 and 2.
Okay,
yeah, she's actually the normal girl. She plays like the nice normal girlfriend.
Yeah, and then he starts having these weird, crazy visions of like bloody women all like crawling on the floor, and decides to kind of backtrack his past and see if he could figure out who he was, where he came from, and why he's seen these things. And it's really, really good. It
sounds Dark City-ish.
It's kind of.
It's very noir. That's the biggest thing for me, is that it's a noir film first and foremost. The soundtrack is very jazzy. The whole thing is perpetually and just set at night. I can't even think that there's a single day scene.
Yeah. A lot of neon, a lot of smoking of cigarettes.
Everybody's constantly smoking. It made me, long for a cigarette that I haven't smoked in 4 years. But it's just one of those films where it's very kind of moody and noirish, and everything either looks absolutely repulsive or incredibly incredibly sexy, or sometimes both at the same time.
Yeah, yeah.
Do you know if people will get to, I mean, because obviously if you're listening to this in Kansas, it's frustrating.
Yeah.
Because you don't get to go to the premiere of something like this, but do we know if it has any kind of distribution yet?
I don't think so.
At this point, it has no distribution.
But it looks like it could.
I'm assuming it's going to have some major distribution, just because
somebody will pick it up.
I don't know if it's going to do like a full theatrical or anything. I would think not, just because of how violent it is, and it's very over the top sexual. I mean, like there's full frontal, both sexes, multiple times in it. So, and the gore and violence are very over the top. So,
cool.
Yeah, Rebekah wrote a really great review of it for Fangoria, which you could read. But the only thing you forgot to mention, which I thought stole the movie, was Vinnie Jones. Vinnie Jones is
but
in
he
it.
played the character he plays in everything.
The soccer player?
Exactly.
The soccer player?
An actor.
Well, I just think of him as a soccer player who they put in movies.
But he was always the gruff, angry gangster, and in this, he was once again the gruff, angry gangster.
But that's the thing. As soon as, like, I thought the movie was good, but as soon as he showed up, I don't know. He's just one of those guys that he's your go-to guy when you need that kind of character.
He did have the best delivery, I will say, because there's a moment when the script completely shifts gears. And his line delivery, when it completely shifts, like when everything just says, fuck all, we're going in a whole new direction. He is the one that initiates the change, and he did it amazily.
Midnight Meat Train.
Yeah, I think he's great in that.
He is good in that. He was well used in that.
Yeah, yeah. So that's pretty good. So what else did you guys see?
I got one because I'd been holding off to see this till it got re-released, and then I just couldn't wait to go to see it in theaters. But I'm gonna go see it in theaters. It will definitely be in my top couple of the year now. All the Boys Love Mandy Lane.
Oh, that's right.
I freaked for it. Like I was I knew it was going to be good because I trusted. Becca had been telling me for a long time, and I just, I didn't know what to expect, but it was just so my thing. Like it was just one of those movies that the way it's shot, it's gorgeously photographed, reminds, it looks like a Malick film or something. And then, but within it, you're always holding something back. You feel like you're in a typical kind of 80s slasher film, but with more interesting characters, slightly more interesting. I wouldn't say like it's radical to the genre, but it really is a great movie. And I think it's so cool that it's coming out and that people get to see it. And I need to go see it in the theater now because I watched it on demand when the first day, because we were recording last week when it was
they did
playing.
The premiere,
And so I'm kind of bummed I missed that because there's a lot of things you want to know about a film like that, a film that's shelved.
Totally.
But I just thought it was really interesting, and I thought Amber Heard was just incredible. You can see it's fun. It's kind of interesting that a film doesn't get released for a while, and then you see this person who was unknown when it came out, and then as a star now, you see it. Like
was that
quality.
Her first movie?
I think it was. And also
it's funny. It's her first movie, but it's the one that's coming out now. But I mean, what a killer debut performance.
Yeah, she just. And it's even in the title and in the direction of all the other people that everyone wants her. Even the girls seem to kind of want her or want to be next to her because she's not attainable. I mean, that's the only reason everyone wants her is because she's not giving anyone anything. Yeah. And so, therefore, the desire factor goes up 100, but it's just so smart the way it holds certain things back. And it just, I don't know, it's just one of those films that afterwards I was like, yep, that's why I like this show.
Yeah,
like,
and the less you know about it, the better,
exactly. That would be all I'd go into.
There's a lot of good surprises in it, so try not to read anything about it. The
biggest surprise, just on the casting level, was the guy, and probably half of you don't know this show, but there's a show called Hell on Wheels on AMC, and it's this, in that he's got long hair and a big beard, Anson Mount. And I'd always watched that show and gone, man, that guy's got some quality that I just like, but I didn't know where he came from.
Brian seems to like that show.
Yeah, well, no, it's cool. And then I turn on this movie and he's got like short hair and he's clean shaven and he's the adult in the film. He's not really much older than them, but he's like the caretaker of the farm. And it was kind of cool to see. Again, it must be interesting because this is an actor who like probably at the time was like, this is going to be my debut, and then the movie gets shelved for 7 years. And then you become a star and look back and, they're releasing that little slasher film now? Yeah. But he did tweet about it. I noticed on his tweet, he said, hey, people I thought it was pretty good, so you should watch it. It's kind of, But I really recommend that. And if you can see it in the theaters, it probably won't be for very long. Yeah. Might even be done by probably a week or so. Yeah. Really good movie.
Yeah. Did you see anything else, Rebekah? Or?
I've been watching, I'm doing a new column for the upcoming Warzone issue called Bijou of the Band. Okay. And it's supposed to focus on really extreme horror cinema, things that have been banned, things that are too gory for normal consumption. So I have been eyeball deep in like August Underground.
Oh, that sounds like a fun assignment.
It does. And usually I would go ape over these films, but considering how busy I am this month, I'm just not into August Underground.
Can I plug that? I'm wearing a Gore Zone t-shirt as we speak.
Oh, look at that.
But I want to plug that because I did read the new, the first new issue, a re-release, and it's worth it. If anyone's a Pieces fan out there, and I'm a big Pieces fan, there's a really sensational article in there. Like, I think it was from a while ago before the director died. but it's just there's some really good little tidbits in there that I never would have expected. So yeah, it's in stands now, right?
Yep. Actually, this one isn't on newsstands because this one we were kind of testing the waters with. So this one's only on our website. We only printed 2,000 copies and we maybe have 300 left.
Yeah, it's good.
I also like that it picks up wherever the last issue, like it's not Gore Zone number 1.
No.
What is it, 28 or
it's
something
28
like
because we stopped in, I guess it was like 80, maybe it was 92. We stopped after 27 issues. So we picked up and called this one number 28.
I love it.
Even though 20 years passed, we picked it back up. So.
Yeah.
And FEARnet wrote a wonderful article on it. I was so excited.
Yeah, it wasn't me. Somebody else did.
Yeah, somebody else did. It was awesome. So.
Yeah.
I still like hard media. Like I still like magazines. I mean, I love online stuff. And when I go for news, I would rather just go on a website. But I love sitting down, as long as it's a good in-depth article. If they're just film reviews, I don't really care because I can get that online now. Mm-hmm. But when the actual interviews are really good, there's something really nice about just lying and reading a magazine.
Yeah. It's people like you that keep me employed.
Yeah. Well, I get them for free, so I'm not keeping you in shit.
Well, I think
you hand it to me, so it doesn't count.
Elric's been to my place, but like there's a few magazines on like my counter and all that, but. And I know this sounds odd, but in my bathroom, I built a shelf where there's magazines and books and stuff. Part. And, not that I encourage people to hang out in there and read, but it's like, I like
that's
Rob's
and read.
That's the
It's better if they're reading. Trust me, Rob. You want them reading if they're in there.
That's true. That's
my
true.
favorite thing about Rob's bathroom is he has a model of, it's from Weird Science. Chet from Weird monster. Science, the shit monster.
Yeah.
You're stewed, but what?
Directly across from the toilet. So when you sit down, you'll see Chet and be like, is that... Oh my God, it is.
Yeah. And that is what happened. I went over to Rob's place. I used his bathroom.
You went there to take a Chet.
I took a Chet and I read all of his fine literature.
Nice. Classy dame, that one.
Now, the one thing I saw a few things, but they all relate. And it's kind of amazing. I've been going through all the Universal monster movies again. Mm-hmm. I'd never gotten into The Mummy at all. Like I've had vague memories of it. And the funny thing about The Mummy, I've now watched all 5 of them.
Right.
Because, the Legacy Collection has them all. It's so weird. The first one, the one that has Boris Karloff, is not The Mummy I know. Meaning, I equate it to, it's like this epiphany. I equate it to like, we all think of Jason, but Jason doesn't have the hockey mask until 3. Right. I didn't realize that he doesn't look like the Mummy in The Mummy. Like there's one shot at the very beginning of him wrapped up, and then he looks like Boris Karloff with old man makeup for the rest of the movie.
And doesn't he have a fez on? Am I confusing this?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, and then that's it. I was kind of surprised because growing up, I always remember the Monster Squad and like just like that and Waxworks, like the version of the Mummy with the bandaged guy that looks like a zombie.
Well, and also I think didn't Hammer do a version at one point where there was a mummy? I feel like there
was a whole bunch of mummy films in the 70s actually, and then there was like Kiss of the Mummy in the 80s or Eternal Mummy.
But the one thing that film has from memory, because I think I had that same problem. I think I remember going back and watching it like 10 years ago. Yeah. But what I was struck with, Carl Freund directed, and he was more known as a cinematographer. Yeah. And the one thing about that film is it has just a gorgeous looking film. It's a very simply told story from memory. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was his directorial debut. Yeah, I'm sure it was. Because also the girl that was in it, it was like her first movie, and they were talking about that. Yeah. But, I managed to burn through all of them. And the thing I'm loving about all the Universal Monster movies, because I've been doing all the sequels, a lot of which I haven't seen, is, depending on the quality of them, some of them are good, some of them aren't, some are pretty boring, and you have to wait to the very end until one of them fights another monster. Right. But continuity is fantastic. And at least the Mummy movies, it's like the second one opens pretty much with like the first 10 minutes of the second movie is all a wrap up of the first one. But whatever actor they got to play the Mummy like replaces Boris Karloff. It's like all the same footage except the one guy that's the Mummy for the second one. And then that's when he actually looks like, the bandaged up monster. That I don't even know if I've seen the sequel to that. Yeah, I mean, you never know. Universal films are like things you saw on TV as a kid. Yeah, they're so you misremember. Yeah, like literally every then like it pretty much picks up every single Mummy movie exactly the same. Right. So they're not all that different, but again, I'm fascinated by Universal continuity. I may even write a FEARnet article about like Universal 101. Did you watch the sequel to Invisible Man? Those are the only ones I haven't gotten. That's the last. And I just read that... Number one's my favorite of all. Yeah, I just saw the first one for the first time. I read the second one, because Claude Rains plays him in the first, and he's fantastic. That's why it's so good, yeah. Second one, he's played by Vincent Price, which I never knew. Right. No, I did know that, but I can't imagine it being the same. But still, I'll watch it. Yeah. Yeah, this week I've gone through all the sequels except Invisible Man, so that's next on my list. Yeah, they're interesting to rewatch. The cool thing is they're kind of timeless, so you can come back to them. I mean, it's like the Spanish version of Dracula's always been better than
so
the Todd
much
Browning.
better.
And yet Todd Browning's an awesome director, but like literally Dracula's one of his weaker films. As crazy as that sounds, from a classic standpoint, Freaks is better. The Unholy is better. So, but that Spanish version is amazing.
The Spanish one is great. I just noticed, considering soundtracks is going to be part of our topic.
Yes.
The DVD of Dracula has a version of it with a score by Philip Glass, which I'd never even realized was on there.
I think they toured that maybe 10 years ago, because I definitely saw it.
You remember anything about it?
It was toured. I remember it was pure Philip Glass, like it was better than the movie. Like I was sitting in the audience going, wow, the soundtrack's amazing. And it was elevating what was in the film. You know
Interesting.
what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm making the film sound bad, but it's, it's a little clunky. It's a little slow.
I mean, it's of its time.
Exactly.
So.
It's still atmospheric. And
my favorite one is still Creature from the Black Lagoon. And that didn't even come out until the 50s. So, I mean, it's not even part of the technical classic monsters, although it gets lumped into it all the time.
I wonder if you haven't seen it in 3D, which I haven't. I know it played last year in 3D. I feel like it maybe, and I love, it's my favorite of all the creatures. Easily.
Come over. I got it in 3D.
Okay. I think I got to do that because
I've
never seen it in 3D. And I think some of those movies, you really probably haven't experienced them unless you've experienced them the way they were shot.
Yeah.
I mean, if that's what it was there for. So every time he kind of lashes out,
Yeah, my roommate and I are saving that for last because we tested out the 3D and we're like, oh, yep, that's going to be the last one we watch.
I loved Creatures so much because it was the first one to kind of implement social situations being revealed through a monster. So it wasn't just about the monster, it was about the female scientist and the gender roles on the boat and things like that, and the idea of being watched. And
the voyeurism is about as good as I've ever seen. Even now, like that's when he swims under her and in unison with her.
Such a beautiful shot.
It feels kind of like how we as I can only speak for young males, but watch women on screen in a similar kind of weird relationship. You can't touch, but you can come close. And so I felt like that early sense of voyeurism was genius in that film. It is ahead of its time.
That was the first one. I mean, because I'd watched all the Universal monsters when I was a kid, and it was all just very kind of like, yep, that's the Wolfman, that's Dracula. But that was the first one that kind of made me want to be part of the whole industry to create things like that.
I was fascinated by Creature and Wolfman, but Creature I remember being one of the first, kind of the gateway to it.
Except I hate it when they change his makeup in the third one.
Well, he becomes like kind of human or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, it's a cool concept, but he just looks so weird.
It's
in
bizarre.
The third one. In San Francisco, walking around with
the
mechanic suit on, but it's an interesting
depressing.
film.
They take his gills away.
Yeah, it is. It's a sad character.
Yeah, and I gotta say, the one thing that has been a joy to watch through all these sequels is seeing Lon Chaney Jr. Constantly reprising, Talbot the Wolfman in all these movies. He's probably the only one that played it every single time. And then again, he played Frankenstein's monster once, and then Bela Lugosi did it once, and that was kind of weird.
That was.
But seeing Lon Chaney Jr. as Talbot every single time, he's kind of like, to me, he's the heart and soul of the Universal monster movies. Like there's just something I don't know if you and I, Elric, I thought we were talking about this the other day. There's just like something behind his eyes.
Yeah, I don't know if it was us, but he does. He does have
you from his grave right now.
Pull the string, Eddie. Pull the string.
Boris Karloff does not deserve to sniff my shit.
Yeah, no, it's true. He wasn't quite as good at thespian as Boris. Boris was a real deal.
Boris is great.
Karloff's a real actor. You go see Targets or something, you're like, oh, you're a great actor.
Yeah,
I wouldn't say the same.
I still like that.
But I did want to say one thing, which kind of ties in a little bit to that period. Last night I was watching it. I didn't watch the whole thing yet. I'm going to watch the rest tonight. But I see it. But I was thinking, like, no matter how jaded you get about movies or the industry, if you watch Matinee, you just like kind of melt and go back to being a kid. Anytime I've seen Matinee, like I see it maybe every 5 to 10 years. It was on TV, flicked onto it, wasn't going to watch it. And you just kind of get, the world is so innocent. Like no one does childhood like Joe Dante has been able to. And that film is just so full of love for cinema, for like the William Castle legend.
John Goodman?
John Goodman is William Castle, basically, without being called William Castle.
I may not have seen it.
If you haven't, I swear, I think it'll become one of your favorite films. I think for you especially, like people who love that kind of childhood horror. It's just gorgeous. It's just, and I knew it was, but just seeing even the first 20 minutes, I was laughing, going, man, movies don't get made like that anymore.
Yeah,
I mean, because Joe Dante's not making enough movies.
Yeah, exactly.
But even speaking to the topic of it, one of the most rejuvenating books I've ever read is Step Right Up America, I'm going to Scare the Pants Off You, which is William Castle's kind of self-written biography about why he does what he does in his life and marketing and everything.
And they have that doc that was the doc I watched, I think in our second or third show, which is based on that book, I think, and it brought me to tears by the end. It was so heartfelt. It's just
so the book is,
and everyone loved him. He wasn't some tyrant. He was a guy out to make you all have the best time.
Yeah,
and using horror and using scares and tactics and shocks under your things under your seat, and that to me is like that's where it has to start. It's pretty cool stuff.
Yeah, it's a great. I think that doc is in the William Castle box set.
I think so. Yeah, I think so. It was a nice. And also, I mean, this and last pitch for it that ties into it is, I think every year at Cinefamily they show The Tingler, one of the best Vincent Price films, and they show it because part of it was actually shot at the Cinefamily, a sequence, and so they show that, and they do put the shock things under the chairs.
They do that at a theater in Baltimore. We used to go when I was in high school.
I haven't been, and so I'm tempted to go this year because I love The Tingler.
That's one of my favorite films. I always wanted to get a Tingler tattoo on my back, and then somebody pointed out if you're from the South, it looks like what we call Helgramites, which is just this bug that we have in the South. It looks just like them, and somebody was like, "So you're going to get a Helgramite tattoo?"
Well,
on your
now
back.
It would look like the Human Centipede, which would suck.
Now it's destroyed it for me. I want my Tingler tattoo.
Yeah.
Wow.
So Tingler / Human Centipede tat.
Nice. I think you should get a killer POV tat.
Yeah, there you go.
Okay, only if you two
tramp
do
stamp.
as well.
No, I don't know about
Elric
that.
needs a tramp stamp. Neither of you guys
I do need a
have
tramp
tattoos. Oh wait, Elric has tattoos.
I have one.
I don't. I decided
Mine's of
not
Rob's
to.
face.
Oh my God.
On the inside, under my armpit with this little beard under there.
Well, we have some guests waiting out in the wings, meandering about the studio. Kids.
Let's get them in here. So hang tight for 2 seconds.
I'll do some soundtracks in between.
They're not going to go anywhere, guys.
No,
they're not going to go.
Just stay there. Hi, welcome back. So apparently I failed at the beer tonight because I bought a bunch of Honeycrisp apple wheat and the room has decided it's not very good. I'm sorry, room. But anyway.
You let us down, Galluzzo.
Sorry. Anyway, we've got two very special guests to talk about horror soundtracks tonight. We always like to mix it up and bring different types of people on. So we thought we'd bring a composer on board, one of my good friends, Joe Bishara. Welcome, Joe.
Hello.
Hello. Welcome.
You're going to list off his filmography?
Of course.
Yeah, because it's pretty damn impressive.
It is impressive. Most recently, Joe did the music for The Conjuring, for Insidious 1 and 2. He also did some of Mike Mendez's movies, The Grave Dancers. And you were, correct me if I'm wrong, music supervisor for Repo the Genetic Opera and Devil's Carnival?
Yeah, music producer. Music producer. Yeah.
There you go.
There was a supervisor handling all the stuff on Repo, but no, it was just kind of the down and dirty in the trenches.
Right on.
Nice.
Okay. And on top of being a composer extraordinaire, he also appeared as the villains, the demons in both Insidious and The Conjuring, which kind of, I will confess, kind of ruined it for me.
It did, because I was suddenly like, the red demon is Joe?
Everyone's scared.
See, now I didn't know him. I mean, I've seen you at barbecues, but Conjuring, I had no idea that was you. None. And that was one of my favorite moments in a movie this year, was when you're on top of the cabinet.
On the armoire,
yes.
Yeah,
the armoire. That's an incredible scare.
No.
How did you get into that? I mean, like, I know how you got into composition, but...
How did I get into actually doing it?
Yeah, how did you get recruited into monsterness?
James just asked me to do it. I mean, literally, it really was that straightforward. We were working on... Mike Mendez was doing a piece for a project called Overkill he's trying to get going, and we were just kind of helping out on set, just doing makeup and doing some burn makeup on a friend, and James was just kind of like, he already has the right build, he already shaves his head, and he just kind of, he just asked me to do it. I didn't really realize how involved it would be until I kind of got into it, but I mean, of course, why wouldn't you? I mean,
yeah.
Did he already ask you to score the movie at that point? Or was that like...
We had talked about it, but it was... I don't see. It all kind of seemed to kind of come together, almost together at the same time.
Right. Hey, do the music and be the demon. Okay,
makes sense.
Sure.
Yeah, and then kind of followed suit and happened again with Conjuring. He mentioned just kind of being a demon character in it. I just didn't realize how involved it would be until I started reading the script, and it's like, wow, this is okay.
That's pretty intense. All right.
But then we have another awesome guest.
Yeah, I know. I'm sorry. I all right. I totally failed at the introductions already too.
It's okay.
But
it's cool.
This man is driving me broke, just like Scream Factory and Fright Rags. But from Death Waltz Recordings is Spencer Hickman.
Hey.
How you doing, buddy?
Good.
He's in LA. I knew that when you were planning an LA trip, I was like, all right, that's when we're going to do the horror soundtrack episode when Spencer's in town, so we could have him talk about this stuff.
Pressure.
No pressure at all. But you know what? I mean, I'm sure a lot of other fans as well. I mean, if you're not familiar with Death Waltz, they specialize in releasing these really beautiful vinyl releases of classic horror soundtracks. They've been doing all the John Carpenter stuff. And I think the first stuff I remember was Halloween 2 and 3. I don't know if those were the first out of the gate, but those are the first two that I picked up. So can you kind of give us just like, because to me, you came out of nowhere. And all of a sudden I'm like, oh God, now I got to buy this soundtrack and that soundtrack.
It was serious. Like I wasn't aware of them until trivia nights. And it was like months ago, like a couple of months ago when Ryan was like, I got these great records. And then we were giving them away as prizing. And I was like, I want those great records.
It was the coveted prize. It's like, we're giving Death Waltz records. It's like, oh, we have to win.
And like the room goes ape shit over it. And finally I was like, okay, I went home that night and bought them because I had to have those coveted records.
Yes.
So, yeah.
Yeah. So how'd that happen? What's going on here? Do you have a history in just in music in general?
Yeah, I guess I've always worked in the music industry.
Mm-hmm.
So I was working for Rough Trade, opened their store in East London, and then I was set to move to New York to open their Brooklyn store, which is actually opening this November.
Oh wow!
Are you going to be heading it up still?
No,
okay.
No, I left late last year because I just got too busy with the label. Although I am going out, I'm flying out the 2nd of November to sort of stack shelves for them.
Aww.
Back to the floor. Yeah, and then I've always been into movies, and then, you know, like I used to do a fanzine back in the 90s. Did a film festival at the Scala, and it just seemed like something that would be really cool. And, you know, it's also like the first release was Zombie 2, Zombie Flesh Eater.
Yeah.
And that score is amazing. Like, it's absolutely awesome, but it's never been on vinyl. And I don't buy CDs, and I don't want CDs.
Right.
They don't interest me. They're boring. So I was like, no, if no one's going to do this, I'll do it. So
I started with the desire, like, all right, well, here's some soundtracks I like, but they're not on vinyl. So
yeah, it's just stuff that, you know, I'm a fan. I mean, like, I've got, you know,
I'm
shining tattoos
right now. I'm
it's
pretty
like
much playing. I know that one. Yeah, that one with his tattoos.
Yeah, I'm just a fan, and you know, I collect stuff. I buy stuff. We went to Son of Monster Palooza on Sunday.
Did you guys have fun?
Yeah, it was awesome. Yeah, dropped a ton of cash. Walked away with loads of stuff like I was 15 again.
And that was Son. That was Son of, which is the smaller version of it.
We're going to come and do a store. We're going to have a stand at the next one.
Yeah, nice. You should. You guys do
because it was really good fun as well.
Yeah.
And then, the first release was Zombie Flesh Eaters. I got in touch with Fabio Frizzi. Now we're friends. It's weird. And then the second release was like Escape from New York, which is, you know, to release those two as your first records are like mind-blowing.
Yeah. Yeah, and you guys pretty much have John Carpenter's catalog at this point.
We've nailed it, although I spoke to Justin from Mondo today, and they are obviously doing the first Halloween.
Okay.
As their Halloween this year, and I was like, I really wanted to do that.
Yeah.
But then, you know, you can't do everything. Our slate is stacked, man. Like, we're looking up to like Death Waltz 50 at the moment.
Wow.
It's nuts.
Wow. I'm going broke just thinking about it.
Yeah, I apologize in advance.
Shelf.
Although we are beginning to manufacture in America from January, so there'll be
okay.
The shipping won't be crazy.
They won't be more than $20 in a store.
Oh, that's great.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, because I mean, I tend to pick them up at Amoeba, where I used to work for quite a while, and actually I bumped into you the first time I met you.
Yeah, just bumped in looking through records.
Yeah. But I mean, so was just out of curiosity because I feel, you know, working in Amoeba, there's you know, vinyl was always kind of a niche thing. Like, it was still popular, but it wasn't like huge. Like, but people tend to go in there that really want vinyl, like that's their thing. But vinyl soundtrack, to me, this feels like an interesting timing kind of thing. Like, would you agree to that? Like, because all of a sudden, like, people are interested in horror soundtracks again.
Yeah.
Now they're available on vinyl. People started collecting vinyl again. And then exactly what the guys at Scream Factory are doing with their titles, it all kind of seems very...
Yeah, I was talking to Jeff at Scream Factory at one of our Beyond Fest events.
Yeah.
And I was saying there's such a weird synergy between us and them, what they do.
Yeah.
You know, like, they announce a title and I go, we're going to release that like in 3 months as well. So like everything they drop, we drop.
Yeah, now Assault from Precinct 13, both of you.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. And it's weird. And then, you know, Draft House are about to reissue Miss 45. We're releasing the soundtrack for that for the first ever time. So it never got released at the time.
Wow.
So I'm working with them. I just sent them like all the tracks so they can cut the trailer for the reissue. So it's good. It's interesting, and it's pretty mind blowing. I mean, it's amazing, you know.
And right now, the reason you're in town, Elric was talking about it before, you guys have been planning all these crazy events that are very music oriented and music themed to go with the movies. It's called Beyond Fest, right?
Yeah.
Right?
So Christian sat next to me. Me and Chris have been friends for, I don't know, 20 odd years.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we just wanted to do it. We thought there was like a gap to do a festival that would be like really cool, that would be made by fans, for fans, and do stuff that was different. So, I asked Umberto to rescore pieces live.
Yeah.
And he just killed it. And then we had Alan Howarth play live and Screamed Assault. And obviously we got the 3 Goblin shows coming up.
Which we're all going to be there at different
next
nights,
week.
I think.
Yeah, do they change it up for people who go multiple times? Or
I don't know what they're going to do. They do whatever they want to do.
Just stay interested, right?
I'm not telling them to do anything. They can just do what they want. But I mean, those are going to be insane. It's at the Egyptian. That theater is amazing.
I am so excited. I think we're going, Elric and
Tenebrae.
I are on
Tenebrae.
Wednesday
You guys
for
are Wednesday.
Tenebrae.
I'm going next Tuesday. Which I think is Deep Red.
Yeah.
Right. And you guys did a special, how did you get them together to do, you did a special record that's them re-recording some of these great themes.
I just asked them. I know it sounds really dumb and really like assish, but
I love
just
that.
asked them. I just said to them, look, if we're going to do these shows in LA and you're going to do a tour in the States, we got to release something. And they were like, oh, we never thought about that. And I was like, what do you have that's unreleased? And they were like, well, we don't have anything. And they were like, oh, you know what? We just went in the studio. Do you want these 4 tracks?
Wow.
So there's that moment when they were like, we transferring them to me. And I was thinking, oh my God, if these are bad, what am I going to do? Because, it's like,
You've already committed.
they're going, yeah, but you never know, do you?
Yeah.
Like, they're going into like re-record Suspiria and Profondo Rosso. And I'm just like, oh, wow. And then when I listened to them so loud, and I was just like, yeah, this is awesome.
Nice.
Like, they just sound so good.
Nice. Are these tour exclusives or are these also available?
So the deal was originally that we were just going to do them on tour, but they're not hitting like every market in the States. And so many people wanted them that we've done a tour edition that the band are selling. And then we've got an edition that's coming out in stores like next week. So like, and that it's a one-off pressing, but you should be able to get it. I'm well aware that lots of our stuff sells for crazy money on eBay and people fight over them and cry when they don't get them. So we wanted to make sure like everyone had a shot. Because, that would be like, that would suck if, you can't get it at all. And you have to go and pay like $200 on eBay.
Yeah.
So.
And I mean, over the course of the year, have you felt that kind of the audience for this kind of stuff has grown? I feel like it's getting bigger and bigger.
Yeah, it's weird. I mean, I guess a lot of it has to do with the general rise in vinyl sales. Like vinyl's the only physical format that is increasing in sales, and it has done for 7 years. Yeah. And I run Record Store Day for the UK. So, I mean, I'm fully involved. I know all the stats, etc. But, yeah, there's a definite, people want vinyl. People want a tangible product. I mean, your scores are on vinyl.
Yeah, I always do vinyl. I mean, I love the format. I always buy it. I listen to it all the time. It's there's just something more compelling about a sound wave being generated in real time. There's something about it that you just feel it in the air. It translates in a different way.
And the whole pack. I mean, it is the whole package, and it's the whole rictual.
That too, which you do fantastic packages, man. I really do.
Thank you. But you have to give yourself over. When you listen to a record on vinyl, you have to listen to side A, then you turn it over.
Yeah.
And I find that when I'm listening to a record at home, I switch everything off and I'll sit there for an hour. But, when I'm on a tube or walking around London, I'm just flicking through my iPod.
Yeah.
Going, next one. But with a record, I sit and listen to the whole thing.
Yeah. I also feel like the sense of time when I listen to vinyl, like I can listen to a CD, but I'll tend to want to skip ahead or whatever. Yeah. But for some reason, like all the records of yours that I've put on, like both Joe and Spencer, I put them on and I feel like they're over in a second. I don't know why. They go so fast, like you get lost in time with them. Whereas if you could fidget with your phone or whatever, it's a different story.
It's still an exciting way to listen to music.
Yeah.
Because you'll feel more involved with it.
Yeah.
You got to handle it. It's just sexy, man. Vinyl. If I could marry my vinyl, I would. I don't know what that says about me.
Are you going to be releasing contemporary, like current film scores as well?
Yeah, I mean, we did we did Maniac this year.
Oh yeah, that was the obvious
which
one,
is an obvious
which everyone's
one.
loving.
That's
Yeah.
brilliant.
So Mondo had it for the US.
Yeah.
We had it for the rest of the world. And then we released Devil's Business, which is a friend's film, which isn't the reason I released it, because we weren't that good friends at the time. Director Sean Oak. I don't know if we get that good friends now. But
What's it called again?
The Devil's Business. And the score is by Justin Greaves from Crippled Black Phoenix. And it's just amazing. So yeah, I definitely want to do, I never wanted the label to be a reissue label. I wanted it just to be a label.
Right.
So, which is why it's nice doing the Goblin. We've got, when I get back into London for the 31st, we've got Fabio Frizzi playing a church to 1,000 people in London, sold out.
Wow.
He's got like an 8-piece band, a string quartet. It's going to be nuts. And we're going to record that, and we're either going to do a Blu-ray or vinyl CD release combo next year.
Nice.
So yeah, I just want to put stuff out that I'm into.
Right.
And hopefully other people will be into it. I mean, it's even stuff like Miss 45, it's not a reissue because it's never been out.
Yeah.
It just got lost. And yet Joe's got all the masters and then all the outtakes and all the stuff he didn't use. And he's got great stories about him and Abel hanging out. So the notes are like, yes.
Abel was my neighbor in New York City.
Oh my God,
lived
really?
right next door to me. I have great Abel stories. But I'm going. I mean, it's 45 is my Halloween costume tomorrow night.
Oh, it's very entertaining.
Oh, that's right. You're into killer nuns too.
Yeah, well, I have.
That goes hand in hand.
I have a book out on killer nuns or nunsploitation. So
how complicated is it, like copyright wise, to get all these materials and kind of jump through the legal side of things?
Do you go to the filmmaker to license the music or the musician?
It's really weird. Everything is different. There's no kind of hard and fast rule.
But did you know stuff about that world before you started doing your own label?
Not licensing.
Yeah.
No, no. I mean, I'd put records out before, but just by bands that were touring. So that's like a whole different ballgame. But I've been really lucky, I mean, I worked directly with John Carpenter. I've worked directly with Alan Howarth, directly with Fabio. We've got some big stuff which we're announcing in December, which is coming through, that we're licensing through majors, so through ADA and Warner's. So that is interesting. And it's just that you got to just be quick. Like, and anything that I do, I kind of throw myself into it. I'm a bit OCD kind of on that thing. So you just have to learn quick and just, sometimes you have to jump through hoops, and then sometimes it just falls into your lap really amazingly quickly, and then it just but either way it's always satisfying. I mean, there's one release we've got coming, our first 2 releases in January tie into each other, and we've worked with the director for over a year to get the cover art right.
Oh no. Can you give us a hint? Can we take it here?
I don't know if I can give you a hint.
Probably not. If his blood pressure's going that high.
But it's like when you get there, it's amazing. When you get the email that said, I love this one, you're like, yes,
that's fun.
Awesome.
That's cool.
So it's always different, and sometimes I always include the composers. That was always the key, because I always want liner notes from them, and I always want them to approve the pressing, because they're the guys that made the music. Whether they've got any direct, I mean, we're working with Susan Justin at the moment, who did Forbidden World, and even though she doesn't own the rights to that score anymore, she's still involved, because she's got to be.
Right.
So even though I'm paying Roger Corman the money to release it, she's the one that's got approval on the test pressing.
That's great.
As well as me.
Yeah. And Joe, just for you, because you put out a lot of your scores on vinyl through your own label. So how difficult of a process is that? I mean, I assume if you really wanted to, you probably could have talked to some small label about doing this stuff, but you did you do that on your own label because you wanted complete control, like over artwork and the way it comes out, or?
It was kind of a little of both. It was a little bit of just a process figuring it out. It really stemmed from I just decided that I wanted to release Insidious, and I started talking to people about it, and it seemed that most people just, unless there was months before the film release, they just kind of weren't interested really. So it was, which there wasn't that time. So I just kind of decided, fuck it, I'm going to do it myself. And I did kind of have an idea of how I wanted to do it and how I didn't want to do it. And I've just been kind of doing it how I want to do it since then. So
Yeah, I just love the kind of like stark and simple packaging to all your records. I remember when Insidious came out, it's pretty much just a black record, and when you pull it out, there's like just the red handprint, and that's it. I think your name is on there somewhere really small, and I remember it was frustrating to the guys that worked in the Amoeba jazz room because they're like, "Who the hell did this record? I can't find a name anywhere." So I had to tell them, "Oh, it's Joseph Bishara." Yeah. So. Yeah, but yeah, I mean, it's again, the packaging on both is good, and we have some questions about that. So yeah, I mean, I guess for all of us, I mean, we've already told stories of how we got into the horror genre and some of the first movies we discovered at the video store and all that stuff. But there also comes a point where you become aware of how important the music is to a film. You know, I mean, you can't not watch Halloween and recognize that that's a big part of why it works as well as it does. So I figure we'll just go around the room and talk a little bit about, you know, what are some of the first soundtracks that stood out to you movie-wise, and just some of your favorite films in general because of the music.
I think we're starting.
Spencer's like,
he's good. Go on.
Yeah, all right.
No, I'm going to go.
No pressure. Right, Spencer's like everything I put out.
No. I don't like any of this stuff.
Trying to think of I don't know what the first is. If I say something now, I'll remember it tomorrow. No, that was the first. No, that was the first. But,
right.
I just remember in general, just the whole soundscapes of things would always kind of stand out to me, is to record pieces of just the audio of movies, and listen to them away from stuff. Just even in the background, just the audio of a film without picture didn't really matter. Mm-hmm. And the things that seemed to have like the soundscapes that drew me in were horror films, and that's what was where my interest always was. But as far as early scores that really stand out, I mean, I guess it'd be tied to films that really stood out, like Tourist Trap.
Yeah,
that's great stuff that not a lot of people talk about. Pinot Donaggio doesn't get talked about enough. Good stuff there.
Right on.
I've always been a fan of the soundscapes of the Blind Dead films. That's always great stuff.
Yeah, those are really good.
Certainly Goblin. I mean, Suspiria was, I mean, that's that whole wave of Italian films was by far the coolest thing happening then, and still probably.
Yeah, I think a lot of those, I think that's what really stood out to me about a lot of the Italian films that I watched as a kid, was the music was just so vibrant and crazy. Like all the Argento stuff, I mean, it's colorful and all, but it's the Goblin score that I'm like, what the hell am I watching? Yeah. This is insanity.
Well, it's also because American films were largely using score as underscore for a lot of the film history. You know, occasionally things like Tubular Bells go a little above and beyond with flourishes, but then the first time, if you're young and you're lucky enough for Suspiria to be your first Argento film, I'm sure it was mine, you can't even believe what you're seeing. I don't know what the word would, I'm not musical, but like an overscore. It's like, it's so dominating, it's there, but it's also it's giving you a whole different emotional read to what you're seeing. Like especially her in the rain in the taxi and looking out at the woods, but this music is moving. So she's not moving much. She's pretty static in a car, and yet the music is just pounding and pulsing. So I don't know. I think if you're really lucky at certain ages, if you get that right film, because a lot of times, like, then there'll be things like, I remember Candyman for the first time, being like, I don't know, 15 or whatever when it came out. And
I think I know what you're going to say.
I think that was one of the first films where I even noticed score. Like usually I'm taking in the score as part of the movie, but that film I actually was like consciously aware that, oh man, this music's so much better than these movies usually get. Yeah. Like, and then realizing it's a famous composer. It's a strange, especially if you're not someone who's always looking for music. You're far more into music than I am, and so to divorce the two, I'm usually coming from a directorial point where I'm looking at them kind of together synergetically, and so it's when you start to take them apart, they become very different things.
Yeah,
like releasing something on vinyl.
For me, I'm always very conscious of music, but if you like kick off your movie with a killer, I knew first 5 minutes of the Maniac remake that I was going to love it, because as soon as the music started, you're like, this is special. This is totally amazing. Special.
But yeah, Suspiria was definitely the first one where I actually paid attention to music. I think I was maybe 15 when I saw Suspiria for the first time, and it hit me like that sweet spot that you were talking about, where it's just like, this is where I needed to be able to understand. And the scene that you were talking about where she's moving through the airport and you see the doors opening and closing.
Right away at the opening scene.
And it was like a mind fuck for me, because it was like, it was shifting between diegetic and non-diegetic, where not obviously something she was hearing, but it was responding to her environment. And that for me was like, holy shit, you can do that with
Yeah,
sound?
I think that's a good point. You can do that. Like, there are no rules to any of that.
Yeah, like up to that point, any of the soundtracks, it was always just background music and like 3 Men and a Baby. I shouldn't say that. It's not like I watched 3 Men and a Baby over on repeat every weekend. But that was the first one that I was really aware that, it didn't just have to be background score, that something else could happen. And because of listening to that, it led me to research Goblin and other things, which this is in the 90s, wasn't as quick on the internet as it is today. We had a little internet, not a lot.
But with American films, once you start, like I was thinking about, even before the show, I'm thinking about all the classic horror films that I don't even think of them as separate things. And then I started listening to the scores and going, holy fuck.
Yeah.
It's like, Rosemary's Baby is like, which was pretty much like, for me, a defining film. And it's just completely hypnotic. It's Mia Farrow singing a lullaby constantly and it's just like gets under your skin. The Shining, all these things, they insidiously, they work in a way that was so tied to what you're watching that sometimes, unless you're conscious of it, you weren't even noticing how it was affecting you. And that's genius, So, which is fun. Once you do separate it, you suddenly notice the musicality of everything. We were talking before about the difference of sound design and score, and obviously there probably isn't a difference at all to you, but like when I think of Eraserhead, I'm like, on one level it seems like a sound design film, but then it's so musical. It takes sounds and makes the whole package becomes musical,
Mm-hmm.
How do you guys feel about that? The kind of sound design versus sound, like actual score? Because I was saying I feel like your stuff is somewhere in the middle, where it sounds like it's sound design, but it's obviously score as well. So I don't know,
I don't really. It is kind of a hard line to draw sometimes, but it took me a while to realize that. I mean, when I first started kind of approaching the work, it was really more my understanding of sound design was no, that's sound effects, and then the design is that's just music. It's all just stuff you're listening to, because most of the stuff I listen to, it's like, I mean, it really just. It kind of sometimes comes down to just a narrow definition of what music is and can be.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. How, we've had very brief conversations about this, but I'm always fascinated by composers. I dabbled a little bit in it, but not much. But what's your process? Like you start talking to a filmmaker long before they even shoot. Is that correct?
Not always, but as early as I can. I mean, as soon as we start talking about a project, then it's kind of like the file opens and started kind of working on it, whether it's indirectly or a little bit here and there, or not at all for a while, and then all of a sudden a flood. It's really unpredictable.
Do you find like it helps to read the script and stuff like that, or do you just
absolutely?
Like for Insidious with James, did he just give you some key ideas and thoughts and be like, you should think about this a little bit when you're thinking about sound, or how did that all work?
We started talking about. There was a lot of conversations. It seemed that most of them were not about music. There'd be a little about music, and we'd kind of bat some stuff around, but a lot of it was just kind of talking about just ghost stories and concepts and ideas and the supernatural and just the ideas, because that's what I'm more interested in, trying to filter the ideas than trying to guide. I don't want to guide anyone anywhere. I just want to be a part of what it is.
Mm-hmm.
Well, yeah, that opening moment of Insidious, the first time that came up with, I don't even know how you describe what happens, but that note, the crescendo, and it's, it probably was my favorite moment in a recent film of anything, and it's the title, what I mean? But I knew from that moment, I just knew that this was going to be one of the most interesting horror films in a long time, just because of that, because it felt like I hadn't really had that experience, especially in American cinema for a while. But does James come to you saying, "Oh, I want to open with this flourish," or do you come to him and say, "Hey, I'm thinking of this," or is it more organic?
No, he definitely wanted that. I mean, he definitely wanted it to be a powerful statement on that title. There's no question. I mean, he wanted that to just come on full blast.
Right.
I mean, that was what he wanted. How we got there was then that's what we had to go figure out. But that was. He definitely wanted to do that. That was definitely a James idea for sure.
Because the directors must really fluctuate how musical they are. Some people probably just don't even know what they necessarily want, right?
It's always different. It's always a different conversation. It can be many different conversations over the course of a project too. It's always changing and shifting until it gets ripped out of your grubby hands at the end of the day. So
yeah.
I'm going to double back. Did we get Spencer's? Like, what influenced him?
Yeah, go for it.
I didn't think we got
I know
there.
we didn't.
And I wanted to know.
We got a standpoint.
I'm keeping you guys on target tonight.
Horror or not? Or the first soundtrack that I ever bought was Star Wars.
Okay.
I was 8 years old. My dad took me to see it. He got me the double album.
I love that.
With a poster, with all the people. I mean, that's where the label idea comes from.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, essentially, I stole it from Star Wars. Or John, well, you know, EMI, Thorn EMI at the time.
Yeah, that's fine.
That's the first kind of soundtrack that I remember buying and listening to, like, obsessively. And I'd lay the poster out on my floor and just look at it. Because there was no video. Like, you know, I made my dad take me to see that film like 15 times. He wanted to kill me, you know. And then the horror film wise, Zombie Flesh Eaters, Cannibal Holocaust. I remember really thinking this called Cannibal Holocaust was kind of bonkers because it's really lovely and it's really beautiful orchestral stuff with these kind of weird electronics in it.
If you separate the soundtrack, it's the most beautiful soundtrack ever.
But also, I think that if Cannibal Holocaust had a score that was really harsh and really brutal horror, that film would be unwatchable. Yeah, and you'd feel dirty after watching it. I think that score tempers the images that are on screen and makes it slightly more accessible. I mean, it's a family favorite. And then I remember seeing like Cannibal Ferox with that crazy disco, like all that kind of weird electro disco music in it and stuff. And then obviously the John Carpenter stuff. Yeah. You know. Yeah. Which just, you know, is absolutely mind blowing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, my version of your Star Wars record is the Superman, the movie record by John Williams. And I actually just finally refound that record. It was the gatefold that opened up and had all the images.
Have you got Superman 2 with the etched?
No, I
don't. The laser etched disc?
No.
So it still plays, but it glows in the light with the Superman logo.
That's pretty amazing.
Okay. I see that all the time. I'll see it. I'll pick
really?
it up.
Okay,
I've seen it I saw it twice in Atomic this week.
Really? I'm going to go to Atomic, yeah.
I'm sure you guys are going to know what I'm talking about, but I don't even remember the names of them. When I was a kid, because I was so fascinated by horror stories, my parents bought me these albums that had pictures on them. And they were ghost stories, but they had a soundtrack playing underneath. What were they?
Yeah, there's loads. There's a ton of Haunted Mansion ones of those. Then there's a Boris Karloff and Friends record, which is amazing. Okay. And then there's a Vincent Price one where he like reads Edgar Allan Poe.
I had like 6 of them, and I used to listen to them over and over. But the music underneath
I used to have
was always
sound
beautiful.
Effects albums.
So did I.
So it was it was gouging eyeballs, but it was someone with a potato and a knife, kind of like all those weird sound effects. You must have loved those.
Oh yeah, drive around listening to haunted house.
Is that something that you would consider licensing, like those type of like Vincent Price? I mean, I don't know what the logistics are,
like that,
but like those spoken word kind of
some
things.
At my parents' house. I got to go dig those out.
That Boris Karloff and Friends record is amazing, and the cover to that is incredible. Wow. It's really beautifully painted record.
What is it exactly? What do they do on it?
They tell stories. Yeah. They just tell stories, and it's got music underneath and sound effects. It's like a radio play.
And have you seen the Vincent Price cooking album?
No, but that sounds amazing.
Holy shit, how did I not
I knew you had a book.
Cook along with Vincent Price.
I'm buying this on eBay tonight. I'd just like to announce.
They've got that Atomic again.
Really?
I gotta be giving away these spots of where I go and buy records.
I'm going to Atomic.
I'm going to tell
Records
Dave this, my husband. He's going to be there at like midnight tonight picking it up.
I will be there before the show airs. So
Vincent Price cooking.
I think that's in the personalities section. It's not in the soundtracks.
Okay.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Okay.
You know, Stuart Gordon was on last week, and he reads The Raven to his daughter's students. If you ever want somebody to
amazing. Yeah, that would be really cool.
That'd be a fun little 7-inch.
Yeah. So did you guys bring lists of your favorite soundtracks?
I kind of did. I wrote.
No one told me there would be lists.
We always.
I'm unprepared.
Well, you gotta. Our fans of the show, they kind of.
They like to write down.
They like making lists because we've kind of become like, you know, we know our niche cinema well, so they. You know, usually walk away with lists of things that they need to see. So we try to provide for our fans.
Well, I did. I forwarded, before we did the show, I forwarded Elric and Rebekah. I wrote some pieces for Icons of Fright a few years ago, just because I thought it'd be fun for Halloween to do like my favorite
I was meant to read
themes.
that, huh?
Yeah, you are.
Okay.
We didn't do our homework, Rob.
You ignore my emails as usual.
It's October. My pumpkin-flavored stress is really high right now, So
I'm going to just jot these off really quick because they're mostly obvious choices that everyone can agree on. And if anyone wants to interject and be like, oh my God, I loved when I first discovered that or whatever. But my top 10 initially
10.
10? Oh my God, I have 5.
I'm going to go quick.
Okay.
The Hellraiser Resurrection theme by Christopher Young, the original.
Okay.
Fantastic. Although,
I really love Coils.
Yeah,
I was gonna
Coils.
ask about
Yeah.
that.
It's hard to get that, though, right?
That's amazing.
I think
I don't know.
It's probably-
I know maybe know someone that's
Okay.
sitting on it.
Well,
I
you guys are
imagine-
screening the Cabal Cut this weekend, too,
Yeah.
so you might have some ins there.
All right. Interesting. I mean, I think the Coil one's on YouTube or whatever. Maybe if you.
It was a 10-inch. It's
search.
really lovely.
Yeah.
As much as I love that Hellraiser score,
Yeah.
I'd love to see that Coil stuff in the movie.
Really? How do you think it would have changed?
I don't know. I
That's a
think it
great
would make
scarier.
Yeah.
It would have
It
been
is.
scarier, I think.
You think
Darker.
so?
Yeah.
It's intense.
I think so.
That
okay.
opening kind of almost kind of fairground kind of lullaby stuff is just freaky.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Huh. All righty. Let's see what else. I got the Puppet Master theme by Richard Band. I like Richard Band's Full Moon stuff quite a bit.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well,
I need to go back and listen to that again there, Rob.
28 Days Later, In a House in a Heartbeat, which everyone uses in commercials and trailers these days. And for some reason, it always works in a trailer. Charles Bernstein's Nightmare on Elm Street theme. Always one of my favorites. And I like Deadly Friend as
I
well.
prefer the rap at the end of.
By the Fat Boys.
Yeah. When we're Dokken, are they on like number 5?
Yeah, that's
Rockin'
right. That's
with
right.
Dokken.
That was a great music
Hell
video. Remember
yeah.
that?
That was.
That was wild.
I saw. Okay, Dokken was one of the first bands I ever saw in concert. I have to profess this. So my
Did
first
they
concert.
play Dream Warriors?
They did. I was
okay.
actually probably
That's all
late
that matters.
80s, and I was so young that my mom made the neighbor boy take me because I really wanted to go. So he was like
Neighbor boy.
16.
Neighbor boy.
I'm from the South. He was the neighbor boy.
That's better than going with your mom, though.
I know,
You
because
got
we
to go
saw
with 16-year-old.
Faster Pussycat, Slaughter, and
Oh, I
Dokken.
used to love Faster
and,
Pussycat.
yeah, and Bullet Boys. So it was a 4 concert, and it was like it was a whole freaking day, and it was in Merriweather Post Pavilion in DC, and it was outdoors, and it was so kick-ass. So,
Right on.
and I was like,
Dokken.
maybe in middle school with Dokken. But I was like, I didn't even, because I was kind of young at the time, I didn't even catch the Dream Warriors. They had Heaven Sent, which was like their power ballad. So that was like my Dokken song.
Well, at least you got to see that. So.
Yes.
My number 6 is Hello Zep from Saw, Charlie Clouser's main theme, which in the last like decade, that's like the one recognizable cue. So much so that every time I was at an event with Brian Collins, he would always like hum it anytime he saw anybody from Saw walk by. Like, but
He loves Shocker.
That's true. He loves Shocker, so we can't count that. Number 5 is Suspiria, Goblin, obvious choice.
Number 5, that low.
Well, then, because look at these top 5.
Okay.
It's,
Okay.
And I mean, it's like
Now you think is that
can't-
these have got to be.
Yeah, this has got to be pretty
fucking-
Well, I
stellar,
mean,
yeah.
they're like the
Otherwise,
obvious.
I'm going to chase you out of the room.
All right, I'm just going to spit them all out because otherwise I'll take so much shit. But, you know, 5 most famous themes: Suspiria from Goblin, The Exorcist, Tubular Bells, John Williams' Jaws, Bernard Herrmann's Psycho score, and John Carpenter, Halloween theme.
Okay.
I mean, it's hard. Those 5 are kind of hard to move around. It's like those are all iconic themes.
But like you're talking best, and I don't think that's something that you can ever really talk about. I like most personal, the thing that like moved you, or like you don't like. Okay, I said I wouldn't talk about it. So I'm
Here
going to
it
talk.
comes.
No,
Here it
but
comes.
like okay, I talk about possession every week
I
because
would
it's.
like, we need like a
It's,
little
we need a little
sound
pop-up.
bite to play ahead of time where it's like this week's possession
But-
moment sponsored by Nestle.
Right, but what I'll say is like the way the camera's used and the way the score operates and the performance, the heightened nature of the performance are all things that for whatever reason have forced me to talk about it every week for the rest of my life. And I saw the film 20 years ago. So there's a reason things again. And so there's movies like Daughter.
Spencer, what are the chances of a Possession soundtrack on vinyl?
For me.
Since we have
Andy,
there is one on
Andy,
vinyl.
Andy's,
There's one, yeah.
Andy's done it.
It's
Andy
great.
Votel did it.
Okay, then
Finest
I have to get it.
Papers.
There
Yeah,
you go.
yeah.
Did you know that?
Yeah, now I'm going to get it
Elric
now.
Christmas present.
But that's actually not, you know what? The reason I brought up Possession was only so I could talk about this other movie that I actually find more interesting, the score, and that because it's on the other disc back when Blue Anchor Bay put it out was Shock by Libra.
Oh my God.
And
I
that
love that.
score is one,
It's
the
amazing.
film's good. It's not like the best film ever, but I've never forgotten watching that film because of the soundtrack. Like just something about it was
Bow, bow, bow,
just
bow,
scary and
bow,
weird.
bow.
And did they have somebody from Goblin was in that, right?
Yeah,
A couple of them. And then, you start, Daughters of Darkness was another one, which I remember being kind of
yeah.
quiet. But
Yeah,
no, I mean,
I
that
love
was a gorgeous film anyway. But And then I love Somber Party Massacre 2, but not the... Wait, I'm going to work backwards. I'm working backwards.
Drill guitar.
What I'm saying,
yes,
number one is the one I'm going to talk about. I'm just saying, everyone know I'm friends with the director, number two, and I think it's a fun movie. It's batshit bizarre. But number one, the actual soundtrack is like...
All right, that soundtrack was recorded on a Casio MT30, one cymbal, and 2 crystal glasses.
Who was it by, do you know?
Ralph Jones. I'm doing it. We're doing it.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's great.
It's amazing.
Has that been announced, or did you just drop that and we have to edit that out?
No, I think it's kind of.
But it's a film I don't think people think about that.
Okay,
and
I have to rewatch this one.
It's awesome.
I love watching those films.
It's so Ralph was not a composer at all. So he's a brother of the director.
Yeah.
Amy
Holden Jones.
Yeah. They'd got no money. He's like, I'll do the score for you. I've got the. So it's one of those like they're about 10 inches long, those little mini Casio things.
Well, it felt like Carpenter's spirit in there.
Amazing.
He had definitely heard the Halloween soundtrack. I mean, you could feel the influences. But it's one of those ones when you think back to some of those films, that's a big part of why I remember that film.
But it's really creepy.
Yeah.
It's odd. Because he's odd.
Yeah, that's cool.
Wow.
I'm really surprised you're actually really... I can't even imagine what it would sound like to listen to the whole...
That's one that I got to go back and watch because it's one I saw it when it first came out and I
It's
definitely
just a movie
didn't pay attention.
And then recently I thought obviously it was trying to be this, but Amer, I thought, did a great job of riffing the best of, that period. And
I want to see those guys use original music.
Yeah,
I
know,
gotta be honest,
true,
and I know that my friend that sat in the room with me will hate me for this.
Did they not use original for the
they don't.
The new one?
They use Bruno Nicolai. They use Stevlia Cipriani. They use all those guys. And whereas that's cool because those tracks are
it's
amazing.
It's like more like a soundtrack.
But you can't go wrong with kind of basically using Giallo's greatest hits. Yeah. And I just think, I'd rather see you do an original score. Because it can be done.
Oh yeah. They could have gotten somebody to do something like it, but it is a good. I would say it's
visually
maybe a good
they're
starter.
Amazing, and their visual style is incredible, and obviously their use of music is great. But I want to see them drop an original score. Yeah.
Nice.
You haven't seen the new one, so it's a shame they didn't do that for the what was it called the Tears That My Body. Yeah, their posters are incredible too. But I mean,
posters are great.
That's a whole nother show, guys.
And in terms of soundtrack, I mean, that's another question. And we'll keep going with these, but also the building of a soundtrack, the idea, and not score, the idea of taking tracks and maybe some score, but like the modern soundtrack, how that builds. I mean, this year there was Kiss of the Damned was something that was pretty phenomenal. For me, the one that really stands out was the first time I saw Lost Highway. And there were tracks in there that I would never listen to at home. Like, I just wouldn't be interested in that kind of music. I wouldn't have listened to Rammstein ever in my own personal life. And yet, in the context of the film, the way that soundtrack was put together was, to me, genius.
I mean, I know it's obvious, but I mean, The Crow. I mean, we were all at like perfect age. The Crow soundtrack, like every track on it.
I listened to that Cure song "Burn" over and over in my bedroom alone, painting my fingernails black. It was amazing.
9 Inch Nails cover of Dead Souls.
It's great. Yeah. It's great.
I saw them play at the Scala last month to like 900 people. And they played Dead Souls.
Oh, man.
I was
my gosh.
I'm young again.
Wow.
That's how it feels.
That was, but Lost Highway was a good one for me because that was definitely my 9 Inch Nails phase. And that just listening to the soundtrack for that definitely kind of really hit me where I needed
Trent
it,
Reznor put that together.
Yeah.
With
which is why I really paid attention to the film because I mean, I was definitely into kind of my video store, whatever cool cover it was, horror during that time, but I wouldn't have paid attention to an art film had it not been for finding out about Trent Reznor doing it. I think I saw we used to get this mail order catalog called Cleopatra, and Cleopatra was this awesome record company that had all these really Okay, yeah. So that's where I first saw the Lost Highway soundtrack, and then I picked it up and yeah, it was a really good one. So, but the ones that I've got, Vampiros Lesbos is one that it's still on my iPod to this day. I absolutely love it. If you guys haven't picked that one up yet,
I played 2 tracks from that when I DJ'd on Friday night.
Really?
Yeah, Silver Lake.
I love that soundtrack. So the next
Out
one,
of curiosity,
You can't beat lesbian vampires.
Did you bring records this time?
Yeah, I bought them. Yeah.
My favorite thing when I did, I was with my friend Annette and we bumped into him at Amoeba when I first met him, and we're like, what are you up to? He's like, I'm doing a DJ gig tomorrow, and I didn't bring any records, so I'm buying records right now to play tomorrow. That was amazing.
I played a 2-hour set with only records I
that you bought the day before. It was amazing.
It's amazing. Oh my gosh.
Which is probably why it was so bad.
I've also got my Goblin one. I talked about it last week on the show, Contamination, which the movie itself is a little boring. I hate to say. It's got some cool gore effects, but the movie itself is a little boring. It was made to be a version of Alien. I think it was actually made to be like an exact rip of Alien, except they never go anywhere. It all takes place in like the New York City subways. But the soundtrack is Goblin, and it's one of my favorite soundtracks by them. So I watched the film with caution. It's a little dry. So,
Elric, didn't you have like a Goblin-related question last week?
Could have. I can't remember. Well, we were talking about phenomena and some a bit, but then there's some things that are kind of complicated. I always like Simon Boswell stuff, and so,
I know Simon.
And well, yeah, no, I've had him on the show before, but he it's complicated because you don't know where some of their music's when he's on with them. You sometimes don't, but then you watch something like Santa Sangre, and you can't believe a Westerner even did the score to that because it's just so tied in with the film and the kind of it's just so organic. So he must be very talented musically in general. But I remember liking Demons too. The sound, some of the stuff he did, some of the cues, like when they're trapped in the elevator and the lights shining behind them. It's incredible, you know. And yet it's not as good as a film. But I don't know what his relationship was to those bands. And
he was just out there working in Italy, and they really loved him. He's like a mega star over there. Like Paul from Fright Fest, he's sat over there.
He's sitting here.
There was like a standing ovation when Simon was on stage. I mean,
wow.
He's still huge over there. He's just put together a band. He's going to tour.
Oh, cool.
Nice.
So he's going to release hardware.
Oh, that's such a good one. I also, and this is kind of a weird deep cut, but Acid Eaters. Has anybody seen it? It's surprisingly, it's a weird film. It's definitely an exploitation film where it's just literally about a group of people who work normal jobs and decide to drop acid, and then they travel to a pyramid in the middle of the desert to do so. And they all ride motorcycles, but the soundtrack is very cool. Wow. So yeah, it's very cool. I highly recommend it. And then also, and this one's, I can't say newer, whereas the rest are from the 70s, Ravenous. I loved the soundtrack to Ravenous.
Yeah, I remember thinking about it at the time. What about musically as influences on you? And I know, without saying what influence, because obviously everything you've grown up on, but were there clear artists whose work you just, when you first encountered them, you knew were going to come through your own work?
It's so hard to peel apart your influences. I mean, it's like, I wouldn't even know where to start tearing it apart because it's just, I consume such a steady diet of music all day and have for so long. It's just kind of like, where do you even peel it apart? So it's just like a constantly cycling list of music.
Right.
It's like trying to think of any one artist, but I mean, it was I'll tell you, it was definitely like a great fulfillment to get to work with Diamanda Galas on the Conjuring score after hearing her music and seeing her perform live for so many years. If there was ever an inspirational artist, it was her. She's incredible. It's like, remember seeing her perform on the Plague Mass tour, where it's just almost more of a performance art piece, just screaming into two microphones, topless, covered with blood. It's just such a powerful thing and then to be standing next to her recording these vocal figures on Conjuring was just definitely like coming full circle to like, yep, okay. Nice.
Wow. You showed me those videos on YouTube, right? Is that who I'm thinking of?
Did I send you that? I might have.
So. I'm pretty sure. It's pretty wild. Yeah.
So yeah, if you don't know her, definitely look up Diamanda Galas.
Yeah, no, I don't know. That's interesting. Now, when you see contemporaries, like, did you see Maniac?
Yeah.
What do you like? How do you judge contemporary stuff? Does that still get you just completely jazzed when something is way outside the box like that? Or
well, I mean, Maniac. I mean, that doesn't seem way out of the box to me at all. Not even. I mean, that's one of the original Maniac is one of my favorite films.
Right.
It's like I mean, I love that film. It's so it's like no, it's not out of the box at all. I thought it was great. I mean, it's like it was definitely like I kind of agreed with you right away. It was like yeah, this is cool because it's like it was. since I love the originals, it's kind of like, all right, well, let's see. I'll keep an open mind. Let's check it out. But as soon as
I was nervous about showing it to you because of how much you love the original. And then right in the first 5 minutes, it was like when you heard the theme, I was like, all right, I got him.
Yeah, no, it's great. Oh, that's right. We watched it together. That's right. Yeah.
Yeah, Elric and I watched it together, and the film itself was not my favorite film of last year. I went on record kind of saying,
not fair. You had somebody talking the whole time.
I did have somebody talking in my ear. It was not Elric, but we definitely had a chatty Cathy.
But the score was,
The score I bought that night. So I ordered it as soon as the film ended. It was
I remember
just
somebody
epic.
gave me a copy of it, and on the other side, they gave me 2 discs. The other was Sorcerer, and which I hadn't seen it so long. And there were so many really great similarities running through those 2 scores. And
Sorcerer is cool.
Sorcerer is fucking awesome.
It's
so
one
good.
of those. And Friedkin Live, he did tell a story about how he came in touch with them. Because what I didn't know about Friedkin...
he saw them live and then just...
Well, they took him out into the middle of nowhere. Yeah. Like, had never heard of them. They took him into the middle of a jungle somewhere, and it was complete darkness, and the band played for like 4 hours. And he just was like... But the reason why I think this director-composer relationship is kind of interesting is because for him, he said on that and To Live and Die in L.A., and maybe one other, he would ask for the score in advance. The complete score would then be sent to him, and then he would film the movie.
Yeah, Tangerine Dream didn't see the film.
Yeah, exactly. Crazy. Without them seeing the film, he would then use that to set the mood and figure out how to build certain key scenes. And To Live and Die in L.A. makes sense, too, just the way the scenes are just matched so well, But it's interesting. I haven't heard that often as a process. But yeah, Sorcerer is like the best thing I've seen this. I mean, I saw it when I was a kid, and I liked it, but I loved Wages of Fear. I remember liking Wages of Fear this year when I got to see it on screen. It's the best film I saw. Yeah,
I went to see it.
Yeah, I was sitting next to the guy, the guy who's been on the show. I was the guy sitting next to the guy who got into the argument with Friedkin about.
Was that the Spider-Man guy?
Yes.
Oh my God!
I was Mike Williamson. If you're listening, Mike Williamson.
The minute that he was like,
brutal.
He's a 16mm expert.
Yeah, it was brutal.
That's we're gonna listen records with him. So watch what you say.
It was brutal because some kid.
They had like all night.
Oh my God!
Yeah,
because some kid's like, I'm gonna shoot on 16mm. And Friedkin's like, oh, you idiot, it's dead. And then Mike just couldn't contain himself. He's like, but Spider-Man 2 was shot on 16. Fuck Spider-Man 2. And it was just downhill from there.
The thing with Friedkin is it literally is the William Friedkin show.
It was one of the best Q&As
like wind him
I'd
up
ever
and just
seen.
watch him go. I was crying.
Yeah, he was pretty much in the best form.
Yeah.
I could imagine. Probably because he's gotten the ego out of the way. He's written a book. It's all fresh. His stories. It was incredible. It was an incredible dialogue. But it was just funny sitting next to the guy who was getting all the heat and the whole time. But you're getting pulled into it. But
it's amazing.
Yeah, it was fun. I just saw an article yesterday written. It said, "Fuck Spider-Man 2," and it was a whole article about that night. And I was just like, Jesus Christ! It was like,
wow.
I was just actually writing an article yesterday about In the Folds of the Flesh, and now that I'm thinking about it, that had a really kick-ass soundtrack to it. I really liked that one. I don't know anything about the composition to it. I just remembered that it had an amazing...
Legend of Hell House is one of mine.
That's
great.
You know that movie?
That's really
one of the best
one.
films.
Yeah,
Delia
that's a good one.
Derbyshire, Brian
So
Hodgson.
good.
If I could find those tapes, I would fold the label. I'd release that and fold the label.
Wow.
It's incredible. Like,
Yeah.
if you don't know that movie, you need to go and watch it. And Let's Scare Jessica to Death as well. There's more to that.
such a good one.
Really weird, kind of electronic stuff with kind of guitars in. It's a bit kind of hired hand, Bruce Langhorne, but sinister.
Yeah.
But I remember thinking that it's a strange kind of marriage with the film because the film is so kind of peace hippie.
Yeah.
And then you've got this like electronic score behind it. It's a weird little combination, but it's so effective.
Are there films where you've thought the other way? Like you've seen a film where you did maybe found the soundtrack interesting, but you just didn't marry to the film at all. Like the two just could not survive together. Maybe. I mean, it must have happened a ton. But...
I occasionally get asked if I was going to rescore a movie, what would I do?
Well, obviously, pieces.
I felt that when I went to see Prometheus, the music didn't fit the film. It infuriated the fuck out of me. It didn't fit the film. It battled against the film. It was like a Lord of the Rings type.
Right. Yeah.
Oh.
You know, like, and it just
Making an
made
Odyssey.
the film dull.
Yeah.
Didn't make it scary. It was just uninteresting. I was waiting for fairies to come out. So dance.
Joe, what was an icky one for you?
I'm trying to think. I'm sure I was drawing a blank, but I'm still stuck on. I was thinking about just a recent vinyl acquisition of another. Just when you mentioned Hell House, it just reminded me of Invasion of the Body Snatchers.
Oh,
that's great stuff.
Yeah, that's
so
great.
good.
Mm-hmm. Nice.
Let me get back to you on that.
Well, it's because it's usually overbearing. Like I'm thinking ones that just, that's a really interesting choice. But usually when I notice a bad score in Hollywood, it's just usually because it is overbearing or it's trying to point everything and direct you completely to every emotional beat.
That's because they just turn it up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like the score's got to be so loud that you can't hear anything.
Yeah.
Like I'm a really big fan of like Jeff Grace. He works with Ty West.
Oh yeah.
Like House of the Devil.
House
of the Devil,
favorite scores. The Innkeepers is like really beautiful, understated, orchestral.
Yeah.
Just hands down, just really, really nice.
Solid stuff. Yeah, he does most of the Glass Eye Pix stuff. Oh. And it's all pretty terrific. Yeah.
Very nice.
Well, we have what you just asked kind of leads into the questions section. We have some questions from people on Facebook and Twitter for both of you guys, if that's cool. And we'll give a call out to BJ because she usually always gets a question in.
Oh, is this a BJ question?
Yes, it is for Spencer. This is kind of a tough.
I mean, chocolate.
I actually have an answer for this. I brought candy.
You got
an
answer
beer.
for my question.
I do. Well, I have my answer for it, and it's actually one of your releases. What scores do you think are better than the films they came from? And I have this answer for one of the things you put out.
Wow. I have to think about that.
Well, mine is I just watched for the first time, and I hope I don't get rocks thrown at me in a minute. But I just watched for the first time House by the Cemetery, the Fulci film, which I can't say I liked a lot. I was like, oh, okay. But I loved the score, and I was like, oh, man, Death Waltz put this out, so now I have to go buy the score.
That score was bonkers.
So that's a score that I think is better than the film it came from. That's my example.
I love Fulci, man.
I like the film too.
I'll fight you.
I'm sorry, guys.
I'll bloody your nose.
It's not my favorite Fulci film.
It's playing tonight.
Oh, it is. Yeah. It's playing tonight at midnight.
Playing tonight, yeah. After Winter Beast.
After Winter Beast.
Don't know how that went. Vermont or something. Yeah.
I'm trying to think. I have to. I'll
think about it. All right.
Yeah.
For Joe from Facebook, Dustin Putman asks, was it ever planned for your character from Insidious to make an appearance in Insidious 2? It's the one element from the original that seemed to be missing and was just curious.
There was a lot of there were a lot of angles talked about over the course of it. It's hard to say what actually was it all kind of, behind closed doors with James and Lee. Who knows what got talked about? But I may or may not have heard some things.
So did they give you like be ready, pal, just in case sort of speech, or?
I may or may not have heard some things.
But all right.
Oh, you haven't seen 2 yet, huh?
I haven't. Is he not in it? I guess not.
I'm not going to say anything, but for those of us who watched it, when it ends, there's a feeling that what happens right when we cut to black could have something tied to that.
Yes.
But that's just a feeling. That's just a gut. Like if you're watching the movie, you're like, oh, is that where it's going to go next? So I'm not going to try to spoil anything.
I see. Okay.
But there's openings there.
All right. So are you saying
I was on the side who had a lot of fun with that movie. I thought it was a lot of fun.
Are you saying he's going to appear in 3?
I'm not saying anything. I'm not saying I wouldn't know. What about individual tracks? Because before you guys came on, I was joking about how fun the Spider Baby song is that Lon Chaney sings at the start and the lyrics. But like things like that in the Halloween 3, obviously one of the most genius and themes that you can ever come up with. But one of the things with lyrics, like even I don't know how much you've done with lyrics, but for movies, but are there any that really stick with you or that you've tried yourself or are interested in doing with that kind of theme?
Are you?
I guess with words. I guess I'm saying music with words.
Songs.
Songs. Oh, that's what it is.
Devil's Carnival. I mean, that's definitely words.
I mean, I didn't write the Devil's Carnival, but the same with Reaper. But that was. I mean, there are words when they're necessary. I mean, I don't know how. I mean, if it ever. So far, there hasn't really been a place to write lyrics in a song.
Yeah.
In a score I've been involved with. I did use a lot of Sumerian chanting in 1111. There was a lot of that. So actually did do probably more Sumerian research than I should have on that film. But I don't even know why.
Wow.
I'd say recently Ben Wheatley, Field in England.
Okay.
When they sing Baloo My Boy.
Nice.
That's playing next week at Beyond Fest, right?
Friday.
This
Friday.
Friday. Oh, yeah, that's
I'm
Friday.
moderating.
That's
I'm
right.
pretty psyched.
Yeah. Talking about music, like, pre-existing songs, I think Ben does that really well, like uses pre-existing music. And I'm not a massive fan of that. And I'm not a big fan of like those big Hollywood where they just throw songs in. But I like it when it's used really interesting. Like Richard Kelly does it, whether you like his films or not.
Yeah.
You can't deny that,
Well, and
his
Tarantino's
music
career
choices.
largely based on some of those choices.
But you just mentioned the Spider Baby soundtrack, which reminds me of Phantomos, Mike Patton.
All of
and
his
how
albums,
he takes some of the old horror songs and kind of remix and remasters them, which leads me to say Mike
Some are really
Patton, separate from Phantomos, might be my dream composer for something.
He's also the voice on the Will Smith version of I Am Legend, on a Mega Man remake.
Really?
Mike Patton is the voice of all the vampires. His voice screeching at its highest peak was what was used, sampled for every creature effect.
He was my geek interview.
I'm a Mike Patton geek. I like
because all horror journalists, we always have one, we say. The one person that, you maintain your composure when you're interviewing like Argento and people like that. But there's one person that you're kind of like, oh, holy shit, I'm going to interview this guy. Mine was Mike Patton. And I was interviewing him for some like video game that was kind of a fly-by-night video game he was soundtracking. But I was like, fuck this. We're talking about Peeping Tom, Mr. Bungle, all this stuff. But yeah, I love his compositions.
Right on. I got a great question for Spencer from Justin Edwards over at Icons of Fright. We talked about this a few weeks ago. Scream Factory is criticized quite consistently for their commissioned artwork. Yeah, he was wondering if you run into fan backlash regarding the experimental
I could
covers.
send you some emails.
Oh, really?
Oh my
I
gosh.
may have had. It's weird. I think when we started, I think that with Zombie Flesh Eaters, Zombie 2. Graham Humphreys, who did the original Evil Dead and Nightmare on Elm Street artwork, did that sleeve for me. And it's traditional in the sense that it's recognizable as that film. It's got the shark in there, it's got the zombie in there. But I think with Escape from New York, people were really upset because Jay Shaw delivered this. Well, initially, when you look at it, you're like, what the fuck is that? But then when you look at it, when you start to sort of absorb it, it's a clock. It's like a ticking clock, and the minute hand is the needle, that he gets. So it's, and people were just like, you take your whack graphic design, shove it up your ass. I mean, some people get upset, but for me, I don't want to see, I love that movie, but I don't want to see Kurt Russell kneeling down with a gun, because I've seen that image so many times and bored by it. As much as I love the movie and I love the movie poster.
Sure hasn't hurt the Mondo posters. I mean, it's like collectability. It creates something new out of it,
And the same thing with like the Fright Rags tees. I mean, they bring in all these people, but Jay Shaw is amazing. He just did the new Fango tees, and they're very kind of four flies on gray velvety with the hands bursting through the skull.
Yep.
There's a controversial moment.
You think? I thought we weren't. When does this go? This isn't live.
This is on Friday.
This launches on Friday.
Oh yeah, we'll talk about it. All right, so
all right, this is it.
So
brace yourself.
This will be really great for anyone that's attending any of the LA Goblin shows. If you're not attending the LA Goblin shows, it's probably not so good. We asked Jay to do a poster for each movie.
Oh,
wow.
I gotta set my money aside now.
Like for sale at each one? Oh, shit.
And better than that, we've flown him out.
Oh, cool.
And he's going to sit and sign them.
I'm going to make him sign
Now I have to go to
my Vanguard
Suspiria.
shirt.
I need to go to Suspiria because I need...
And then just to top that off just a little bit, we've done a glow-in-the-dark variant of each one.
Oh, wow. Damn it.
Is he going to be there on Friday by chance? For the screening on
No,
Friday?
he flies in on Monday.
Because we have our Fango banner that I was like, I need to bring the Fango banner to put up, our flag through the whole thing. It is this massive, 10-foot tall Jay Shaw silk. So I need him to sign it while he's here.
Okay, well, he's around.
Oh,
he's here
that's
for
wild.
3 days. But they're amazing.
Wow.
They're really, really great. So, I mean, you get a bit of shit. But then I don't think that's a bad thing.
No, and
I don't care. I mean, I'll be honest. No, I don't, because the label's for me. And, and it's amazing that other people like it. And, when people buy your records, like they do when they buy yours, like I saw your records in Amoeba the other day. It's brilliant when people say, oh, I've got that package of that record is amazing. I really love it. That's brilliant. But you're never going to please Everybody. So you either do the original poster and it's just a straight reissue, or you do something different. And I never, any artist that I use, never give them any direction. You know, like we got Dinos Chapman, one of the most famous contemporary British artists of the last 20 years. You know, when he gave me the cover to the Fark, I don't know if I could even mention this, but if you've looked at that cover, there's an asshole.
Now we're all going to look at that cover
with a finger
Googling
coming
it right now,
out.
folks.
Oh, wow.
And the minute I looked at, when I went over to the studio to collect the artwork, I went, oh, wow, look at that. And he was like, yeah. I was like, yeah.
I never noticed that. That's amazing.
Okay, I'm pulling it up right now.
Probably says more about me than it does about you, Rob.
Well, I mean, in terms of the art, does it have to go through like more people than just you? Like, does the filmmaker have to prove it, that sort of thing, or is it just
me.
whatever? Oh, that's cool.
Just me.
I also like that you put the quotes on the side.
Yeah, just because I'm a geek. I mean, we get weird stuff. Someone said, "Why didn't you use the chew bubblegum line?"
Oh, on the side of They Live.
For They Live. And, I guess it's that weird thing, isn't it? Everyone's got with a favourite movie, we will have a sense of ownership to it. So if someone's going to release your favourite film, or they're going to go and buy Insidious, they know an idea of what they want as the cover. Yeah. And they know the idea of the package. But then they don't always get what you want, but that's life.
Yeah. Life in a nutshell.
Exactly. Life is shit.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Wait.
Stop moaning and grow up.
Okay, I don't see the finger yet. Am I staring at the right thing?
Yeah, but that's
everyone pick up your phone.
Blurred.
So this isn't boring. Look for the finger.
Get a high res of it.
I need a high res to see it.
Are you guys doing anything for the Cabal Cut musically? Is there any tie-in, or is it like afterwards there's a party?
We're throwing a ball in the courtyard of the Egyptian after the screening. Nice. Like a costume ball.
Is Clive coming along for this one?
Yeah, Clive's going to be there.
Nice.
In person, doing a Q&A after the movie. It's his first appearance in 5 years, maybe. A long time. He doesn't do a lot of stuff now.
Yeah.
But he's really happy that this is coming out. So, yeah, we've got all that. We've got, I'm going to DJ Anton Mayavi, who did the score to Yellow, which we released for Record Store Day. He's going to play live. Yeah. It's going to be fun.
Yeah.
I'm DJing, like Death Waltz DJing for Goblin. Alfonso does Rendezvous, which if you live in LA, you need to go to Rendezvous. Second Friday of every month at the Hyperion Tavern. And it's soundtracks. So it's like weird 60s soundtracks all the way through to like 80s electro stuff. It's a really good night. It's free entry as well. Every time I'm in LA, I DJ there because it's just a good time and it's a great bar.
Do people who go to Cabal Cut get into the ball, or is that a separate ticket?
Oh, no, it's all
because we've got we're giving away this weekend our Jump Cut. We have a Creep Show on Friday night on 16 mil. Then we have the Horror Shorts night, and we have Trivia night. We have Grant Moniger over at the Egyptian and
Crazy
Grant. He called me and we've got double passes to all of the shows from Wednesday. So like Almost Human, the Cabal Cut, and there's one other the Necromantic double feature, which sounds blown. He went to the beach with. I saw Grant say,
we're going to the beach.
Yeah, they're going to the beach with. That sounds surreal.
That is going to be one hell of
It'll be his first trip to the beach, and I mean Grant, because Grant doesn't get outside.
Especially.
But no, it's cool. Fun. So I mean, yeah, there's so much good stuff happening around town, but if you plan well, you can get to all this stuff.
Usually my forte is kind of like any really fucked up cinema that you probably shouldn't be watching. What is the one that you guys are showing after?
After Necromantic.
Oh, Shram,
because it's one that I've heard of, but I've never watched. But it looks really extreme, and I was like, I kind of need to see this.
Yeah. Oh yeah,
date movie. Take your husband, leave the kid at home.
I'm leaving Marnie at home, and we're going to see Shram.
Yeah.
It looked pretty intense. It looked like where my taste would usually fall.
The thing is, I mean, it's not like Necromantic is like a kid's film. We've been playing the trailer for Shram at every screening of Beyond Fest.
Oh my!
And I remember we at the Omen, because the Omen was kind of an older crowd.
Yeah.
And people just sat there, just going. Oh wow! Oh wow! And I just remember like sitting at the back of the theatre with Grant, and Grant just from cinema taste just going.
Yeah, I keep reading his post saying the ghost of Sid Grauman's coming for him or something, right?
Yeah.
Wow.
Oh, that was probably the other night when we had that porn star.
Yeah, the
doing
Burn in Hell. Yeah, Play in
podcast
Hell.
Before Don't Play in Hell.
Yeah. That was
a
really
fun
fun.
night.
But it is. I mean, there's so much fun stuff going on.
2 more quick questions. For Spencer from Josh Obershaw. Pretty simple. Are there any plans for Death Waltz to release the score of The Beyond?
Yeah.
Ooh, good one.
Even though Mondo did it,
Oh.
it was always on our radar, and we work with Beat like really closely. I mean, the reason we're bringing Fabio over to the UK live is because of Beat, Daniela at Beat. So yeah, next year we're doing it.
Right on.
And we're going to do a box that you'll be able to put all the Fulci titles in.
Whoa.
Oh
So
my
that'd be good.
goodness.
And then next year for Beyond Fest, we're bringing Fabio over to the US to play live,
Cool.
which is going to be amazing.
Wow.
All right. Good.
What? I can't say that. You told someone on Twitter we were doing that. You did.
You may or may not have just heard that.
Luckily, it's at the end of a 3-hour show.
No one's got
Buried.
this far. I've been
Buried at the end.
Nobody's
Yeah, on
listening right
Twitter.
now.
In our
so
4th hour.
No one's going to know that.
All right, we're not doing that. Apparently. Whatever.
We might do that.
We may.
Been downgraded to a might.
Last
I
question.
think
For,
I've been downgraded to sacked.
last question is for Joe from Lauren Irwin. She wanted to know what some of your inspirations were for the unique score of Insidious. This is fun because Sean Keller has mentioned me. He says it every time. He's like, I'm pretty sure that Joe's a huge fan of the Abbey trailer because he says that there's some soundtrack stuff in it that's similar to
The Abbey trailer?
Like the Black
Black
Exorcist.
Exorcist.
Yeah, what we started our show off talking about.
Abbey
I
Black
know the
Exorcist.
film. I can't say I can recall the trailer. It's
All right.
particularly, I really don't know.
Then that's sheer coincidence. But
yeah, no, I can't say. I mean, kind of like from what I was saying before, it really just kind of, I mean, I got to start writing for Insidious before shooting the film. So we were just kind of discussing these ideas and reading the script, and I just kind of just let it stew and ferment and started writing. I did the first recording session with the quartet before shooting the film, actually. So
oh wow,
was able to just kind of start exploring that stuff, and it just kind of grew very organically.
did your mindset change at all once? Because you started before you shot, but then you're in the movie, like in the thick of it. Did that influence you at all?
It was a little bit, but it was really, I mean, it's like I started writing and then we got caught up in the shoot, and then that was just kind of it. It was really hard to focus on much else after that. It was pretty consuming being involved in that aspect of it. So it was really kind of do that, recover, and then get back into scoring.
Mm-hmm. All right, fair enough. Nice. All righty. So, any other questions around the table before we wrap it up?
Do we have a show next week? I mean, we're all going to
might.
Goblin.
We're all going to Goblin.
Yeah, we're going to see how that plays out.
We may have a Halloween show, and something really cool if we can pull it together.
What is everybody going as for Halloween? I told I'm going as Miss 45.
I can't say.
You can't say.
Yeah, it's going to be a shock.
I loved your costume last year, Elric.
I was what's the girl's name from? I was Michael Caine in Dressed to Kill.
Yeah.
I always forget the woman's name that he went as.
Bobby.
Bobby. Yeah, Bobby. I had the razor.
And he carried around a razor.
I made a fucking hot one.
The most scary thing I've ever seen.
It is. It's.
Have you guys seen my
phenomenal.
Norman Bates picture from 1999?
Yeah, I saw that.
Oh, you saw it?
Hilarious.
You don't look weird at all, right?
Well, thanks.
Last year for Halloween, I was 5 months pregnant, and so I put little arms bursting out of my
pretty good.
my
Pretty
stomach,
good.
and I made a little Fangoria, printed out like an actual magazine, and put it in her hands. So.
Nice.
I did want to ask you that before we finish up. Beyond Fest, because I didn't actually know its history. Is this how many years has Beyond Fest even
This is
existed?
the first.
Okay, so as a concept, it just how long between when you guys came up with it and putting it on was it?
We came up with the idea 3 months
3 days ago.
when I was in LA.
Plane.
I guess, yeah, it was May. I was out in May and we were talking, and we noticed that Goblin were playing Austin, the High School Horror Fest. And I think we were just mooching around, just doing whatever, and we were just chatting. We were saying, God, we should do that. And then he was like, why don't you ask them? Oh yeah, I could do that.
He's pointing to Christian, who's sitting in the corner.
Yeah. So and then I guess the festival kind of got built out around the 3 Goblin shows, and then we've been really lucky that the stuff we've done has been really interesting. And more importantly, like the tweets after and Facebook after, people going, "Oh my God, this was amazing!" The stuff that we've done has been different to other festivals, and it's kind of chaotic. But then I'm kind of chaotic, and us as friends together, that's just how it is. But it seems exciting, and people seem to have really responded well to it. And then, more like for me, the best thing is people afterward going, "Shit, I wish I was there. Why wasn't I there?"
That's how I felt about Pieces.
Yeah, exactly.
Once somebody posted, I was like, "Oh yeah," because I was probably resistant to the idea because I liked the film, and when I saw it, I mean, honestly, I thought that was one of the best 5 minutes of score. It really was. It was like stunning. And if anyone, we'll post it on our page because it really is like it just was a different movie. It elevated something out of it.
And the score to Pieces is brilliant.
Yeah.
Mario's score is amazing.
But that was different. Yeah, it was.
From reading the tweets, it seems like every single screening has been a party, and then it was confirmed because I think I got emails from 3 of you guys today that were predecessed with, "Oh my God, I'm sorry, I haven't slept in 2 days," and then whatever was like necessary for the email.
That would
whenever I get those from a chunk of people, it's a good time.
And worst of all, for Friday's screening of Field in England and Borderlands. Borderlands, by the way, is the best found footage horror film I've seen in 10 years. Man.
It's great.
Amazing.
It is great.
And it's scary. And talk about sound design on that. And the sound design is by Ben Wheatley's sound designer. It's fucking scary. When you see it in a movie theater, it is like, seriously, if you're around at the Aero 7:30.
Well, again, speaking of things that unnerved, I remember when I first saw Kill List, it was whatever was happening in the sound of that film was what was unnerving me, just completely what drew me into that film.
But we got, we're going to, obviously we're going to do Beyond Fest again next October.
Cool.
Hopefully, if I'm involved.
Yeah.
I hope so.
And, but we're going to do other things throughout the year. It's not like a one-off.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we're all really excited, and, the response has been really, really good. So, we definitely want to make it.
Fantastic. So for both of you guys, where can we find you on the interwebs? If you'd like to plug your Twitters or websites.
I have a Twitter account that I've never used. So don't bother following me.
I think I follow you, Joe.
But, I don't know if I follow Joe.
Basically just either Facebook or my sites are jbishara.com and the label is voidrecordings.com.
Mm-hmm. And you can buy all the final versions of your stuff there.
Everything's there, yeah.
Yeah.
Has the success of, like, especially The Conjuring, which just, like, kind of really, I mean, you never know if something's going to be a box office success. I'm not somebody who really cares, but it was, I think, the best horror film of the year, and that does matter to me. So, has that level helped get other people pitching you interesting ideas, or interesting projects to collab, who you don't know outside of your circle of, like, friends and family?
There's been some conversations and a lot of but it's you never know where things will lead, but I mean, how could it not?
I'm just, I guess that's a good answer. Dumbass. Under his breath, psychically projected towards me.
Conversations. And then Death Waltz
is our Instagram and Twitter are the same. Death Waltz Rex, REC.
Nice.
But is it you?
Yes,
it is him.
It is you. Okay. A lot of people use interns now, man. I'm telling you.
Wow.
I kind of just got my first proper employee. There's me that does the label,
right?
And then my friend in LA, Carlos, has just started helping me. So we announced at the PC's prom night that we've got prom night soundtrack that we're going to release.
Cool.
And Carlos tracked that down. Tracked down the original master tapes. So he's like being a really, really massive help. And I've got a guy back home, Alex, who helps me with do wholesale. But I mean, it's like it's like a tiny, tiny operation. So I do all the tweets, I do the Instagram.
But that's
really
really
kind of
cool.
why I've got now a breathalyzer on my iPhone, so I don't tweet drunk.
But that's really cool because now, like, when I feel like, Death Waltz has retweeted me, I'm going to be even more flattered because it's actually Death Waltz, not
as
an
of this
intern.
airing. It's still Spencer.
I wouldn't give that to like an intern. I would never give, like, my social media is bad enough. I'm incompetent. I wouldn't give it to someone that doesn't like invest in the label that's working for free. I'd be freaked out.
What's the stuff that you got coming out now? Assault on Precinct 13 is the most recent one?
We got New York Ripper is going to drop in 2 weeks. Then Rune 237 finally is coming out, which is that's a contemporary score.
Yeah, we had the filmmaker on before.
Yeah. And that's great. And then we've got Assault on Precinct 13. Then we have Miss 45, Forbidden World, Slumber Party Massacre. And then in January we kick off with 3 massive releases, which I can't talk about yet. But like potentially like the biggest thing we've ever done. Christian, you could not give me enough Honeycrisp apple wheat beer.
I'm sorry, it'll be pumpkin wheat next time.
Skittles in it too.
But I brought candy.
We've got. I mean, I'm going to try and slow down a little next year because there are like a lot of labels now.
Yeah. How do you feel about? Well, I mean, your face just said it all. But I feel like you definitely kicked this off. I feel like you're definitely.
I mean, I'm really good friends with Seb from One Way Static, and they finally shipped Last House on the Left this week, and they've sold like a ton, which is great. And I know Kevin from Waxwork. Obviously, I'm friends with Justin from Mondo.
Yeah,
I mean,
I think it's exciting.
You can't have a business where it's just you. Yeah, that's a monopoly.
Yeah.
So.
Plus, I mean,
I want a monopoly.
You want it anyway. Well, excellent. So yeah, thanks so much to both of you guys for coming on. I thought this was kind of fun.
Yeah.
And
thanks for having me.
And Insidious 2 still in theaters, probably?
I think so.
Yeah?
For the next 7 months.
Catch it.
And Beyond Fest is, what's next event? Well, this drops Friday, so you're going to have the Ben Wheatley film in Borderlands.
Saturday, we've got Joe Dante presenting The Howling.
Right. With Trailers from Hell.
That's awesome.
With Trailers from Hell. Then Sunday, we have a day off. No, we don't. What do we have Sunday? Oh, yeah, the Nerdist Adventure Hour. Then Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, we've got Goblin. And then it's like it's straight hitters. Then it's Necromantic. Then it's Almost Human. Then it's Clive Barker.
Oh man!
And we got Proxy. And there's a couple of things we're announcing next week. Yeah,
for the end of it. Wow.
Oh yeah, it's not finished yet.
A few surprises.
Jesus.
Oh my God.
I would say on Halloween itself, I'd keep that free.
Good. I have.
Oh wow, good. That's the one day I do have.
We were going to do Chopping Mall, but we may have to change our plans.
Chopping Mall's midnight though.
Oh, you're right. So we could technically.
You can do anything
Okay,
before.
this could be a day of screenings.
Oh man!
They just guaranteed that there's a big event from Beyond Fest.
I've just been told I got the date wrong.
No, it's not.
Date's wrong. Christian's writing things on my notebook.
It's the 28th.
It's the 28th.
Great.
All right, 28.
To be fair, I have not stopped since I flew in from the UK. I don't know what day it is, what the time is.
What day is the 28th?
The 28th is a Monday, and I don't have
Big
any
party day.
screenings
Monday
that
night. So right.
Mark Monday night, goddammit.
Raise the roof Mondays. Here we go.
Well, Elric, you and I were just talking today about how, the actual week of Halloween, we were shockingly...
It gets quieter, it really does.
Quieter, because the rest of the month, it's been like insane for us.
There's so much going on in this city. It's
the 26th is like where everything's at its absolute high point, and then things get quiet. And often on Halloween night, there's fuck all. Really?
Yeah, well, we always call actual Halloween night, we call it amateur night at Fango, just because that's the night, not too many people do anything. Everybody takes
those shitty little amateur children just having fun.
It's amateur night, so.
All right. Fair enough.
I still love it.
Well, thanks again for stopping by. Really, really appreciate it. Find these guys on Facebook and Twitter, and go to Joe's website, buy some vinyl records. Go on the Geek Nation site, comment underneath. There's like a whole little Facebook thing. You can comment right on the actual episodes.
Yep.
And we love hearing your feedback. So come on our Facebook as well for Killer POV. And we will hopefully see you next week for a Halloween episode.
Yep.
I think.
If not, we'll be back with some crazy reports from Goblin.
We'll figure something out. Yeah. Thanks.
So, Joe, has your success helped?
He does this every time.
Has it led to other success? Do you think the success of your film...
I love you guys. I will see you next week.
Thanks, guys.